All right, welcome on into episode 3 of the Plotheads podcast. I am Tyler Spots. I am, of course, an English teacher and film lover, as I explained last time. Joining me today, just like with the last episode, is Patrick Day. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey there.
And joining us today as well is my lovely wife, Taylor, for her debut episode. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself before we get started, since this is their first time meeting you.
Well, my name is Taylor. I am married to Tyler, and I have 3 beautiful cat children, and I work in the mortgage industry, and I'm probably not qualified to really talk about movies and such, but hey, I try.
I think you're qualified. You watch plenty of movies to know what's going on. It's kind of all there is to it, you know? I mean, we have our Regal Unlimited passes, so, you know, clearly you are a huge fan.
Sponsored by Regal Unlimited.
Exactly. No, we are not sponsored, but Regal, if you're interested, I'd be happy to say nice things, because it is a good program, and I think I've said that on every episode so far, so please.
Don't say that, because then they won't pay you.
Oh, well, that's a good point. All right. Well, for episode 3, we are talking about a very special someone in Hollywood, someone that I think we can all collectively say is just a lovely person and a lovely actor, and he's kind of like Hollywood's dad at this point, Mr. Tom Hanks. And he had a new movie come out last week called A Man Called Otto, which is a American remake of a Swedish film that's based on a Swedish book by Fredrik Backman. The book, of course, is called A Man Called Ova, which I didn't know that's how you said it until very recently. I always said Ove when I read the book, but apparently that's wrong. So, Taylor, you've read the book. What did you think of the book before we start talking about the film?
Oh, I loved the book. It was one of my favorites, and I just enjoyed reading every bit of it. It's hilarious. It made me cry a lot, but it was wonderful. I just loved it so much.
Nice. I also read the book. I thought it was very well written, even though it's a translation of the original Swedish book. It's very well translated, tells a very fun, heartwarming story about a really grumpy guy who you learn to love by the end of the film. Patrick, you have not read the book.
No, I've not.
So
I saw the trailer, and those are my qualifications for going to see the movie.
Okay. So as someone who knows nothing about the source material and just went into it thinking that this was its own original thing, probably, is that correct?
Yeah, I had no idea there was any book or anything.
Okay. So as someone who went in blind, what did you think as someone who knew nothing going in?
Well, it punched me right in the gut. I saw the trailer, and I was like, oh, this is going to be like one of those feel-good movies. It's going to be like, quirky old man who's grumpy. I'm like, I'm 29 years old, and I'm basically an old man, so I'm going to relate to this. And they, without any spoilers, they pull on Marley and Me type stunts there, so it's a woof.
Oh, okay. Marley and Me. The dog movie.
Yeah, I saw that movie thinking, it's going to be a happy dog movie. And then things go downhill.
Okay.
But we'll get into that later.
So it's equally as heartbreaking, but also heartwarming.
It's heartbreaking, heartwarming. It just makes you go down an emotional roller coaster. Existential crisis, the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I don't want to speak for Taylor, but I'll say real quick, as someone who did read the book, I also found the movie to be quite enjoyable. It did everything that the book did pretty well. Nothing stood out as like, how dare you? You know, you had something great and you squandered it. It was a very faithful adaptation, even though pretty much every name is changed from the original book to make it, American, as we Americans often do. But I did enjoy it quite immensely. Taylor, again, you read the book. How do you think it compared?
I think it was pretty spot on. I was actually impressed that it followed the book so well, because I went into it, and I'm a little ashamed to say, went into it thinking Tom Hanks, that's weird casting, because he's just so jovial. And like you said, America's dad. And I just didn't think that he was going to be kind of grumpy enough. But I was shocked, and that's again probably mean of me to say because Tom Hanks is a great actor. But yeah, that was kind of my thought going into it, was that I was a little disappointed in the casting, but it ended up being wonderful.
Yeah, I think that that's something a lot of people, I'm assuming, probably thought because, especially people who knew kind of the story, which if you don't, I guess we haven't really said it yet. It's just about a, older gentleman who has experienced some loss in his life, the loss of his wife, and doesn't really know how to go on without her. And so he spends his days kind of just doing his normal rounds that he's done for years, but also struggling to move on to anything new. And so he's grumpy about it and spends his days just kind of mad at everybody and mad at the world, to the point where multiple times throughout the story he contemplates suicide, which is handled, I think, very well in the story. It's not taken so, I don't want to say serious, because it obviously is, but it finds a way to make the tone not so sad and honestly kind of entertaining and funny at times. But that's kind of the gist of the story. So when you hear Tom Hanks, usually that's a guy that people think is very, peppy and happy and one of the nicer people in Hollywood. So it's like, how are you going to take him seriously as a grumpy gentleman? Patrick, do you think he pulled off the grumpy gentleman thing that we struggle to see in the actual person of Tom Hanks?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like he did a great job portraying that. As a grumpy old person myself, I saw a lot of myself in Tom Hanks' performance, so I was pretty impressed. But I like to touch on the darker moments. I liked that it was almost like a dark comedy at points.
Yes.
Where there's like little brief moments of levity, like this really poignant scene where he's trying to kill himself. It just gets broken up by something either monotonous or hilarious.
Right.
It just pulls you back, and it's like almost like a sigh of relief in a horror film. So I found that to be nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the book too, where it's like he's trying to end his life, and it's obviously sad and serious, but then something comes along that gets in the way, and the book almost like word for word often says, no one will just let me kill myself today. It seems worded kind of like that, where it strikes like a tone where you find that like it's darkly funny, and I think that takes a talented writer and a talented, in a movie's case, set of actors to be able to kind of like convey that humor, because that could be something that would easily could come across as offensive or distasteful or just tonally wrong. But I think they did it very well because it is a very funny movie. And I think, obviously intentionally so. So speaking of the humor, there are some neighbors that enter the film very early on that are kind of the secondary characters for the story. They move into this, condo complex that Otto is a longtime member of, and he takes his job, he kind of takes his rounds very seriously around the complex, as like he's the owner almost, and he needs to make sure everything is in line. And these neighbors come in and immediately piss him off. So those characters' names were, what was it, Taylor?
Marisol?
Yeah, that's it. And what was the husband's name?
Nitwit.
What was it?
I believe it was Nitwit.
Yeah, or idiot.
It was actually Tommy, I think.
Tommy. Okay, yeah. So and I told Patrick this in the original story, it's Patrick, but they changed it. Apparently Patrick isn't a fun enough name for the writers.
I can understand that.
You could?
Yeah.
You weren't offended?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
It's fair.
So anyway, Patrick, what did you think of these neighbor characters? Because they're supposed to be ideally the, kind of comedic, most comedic aspect of the story, especially the husband. What did you think of them?
I thought they were pretty funny. I saw myself in a lot of the characters. There was this one character that I don't know what the hell he was doing. He was just walking around like he was doing like knee highs, but every time he did a knee high, he like squeaked. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
His shoes were like.
Yeah, he's in the book too. What's his name, Taylor?
Jimmy.
Jimmy, that's it. Yeah.
So he was so friendly. He's like, "Hi, Otto," and Otto's just like, "Ugh, leave me alone."
You are like that, though, with people in reality. I've noticed that when we go, like to look at video games and stuff like that to the workers, you're always like, hi, how are you?
Yeah, I try to be annoyingly optimistic
Yeah, you
when
do.
I'm out in public.
Yeah, and I always, as someone who knows you very well, it always comes across as like, what is he doing?
It's exhausting.
Yeah, I bet. So you like Jimmy.
I like Jimmy. I liked the couple that lived next door. I think it was next door. The one gentleman was in a wheelchair.
Anita and Ruben.
Yep, Anita and Ruben. They were great. They were like the relatable grandparents. Like everyone has a grandparent who's just not doing well medically or has a sweet grandma. I feel like that's something that everyone relates to. I liked the newspaper boy. I don't.
Oh,
what was that job?
yeah. Go ahead, Taylor.
Newspaper delivery.
His name was Malcolm.
Malcolm. That's right. I liked Malcolm. Malcolm's pretty nice. I just like the cast overall. Everyone's really likable to a certain extent. There were some characters that were a little annoying, but you got over it towards the end because everyone has their flaws.
Right. Yeah, I think that's part of what makes the story, as good as it is, because it really is just a guy interacting with neighbors for 2 hours, which could easily come across as boring or not the least bit exciting. But because the characters are so likable, you're along for the ride because you want Otto to finally see what people that are watching the movie see, is that these people are all quirky and fun, and you should just like them because they're very likable people. There are some characters in there, though, that you will want to scream at and yell at, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the spoiler section. So, Taylor, what stood out to you about the supporting players in the film?
I just love Marisol. She was a delight, and I think we can all probably pinpoint a Marisol in our lives and relate it back to them. Just somebody who's super bubbly, but also isn't afraid to call you out. Like when Otto is being rude, she's not afraid to say, you're unfriendly and you need to cut it out and you need to be helpful. With his neighbors just all around, she really encourages, not even encourage, but forces him to be helpful and neighborly. And that really helps to break Otto out of his shell. And I just think that we all need a Marisol.
Yeah, she's definitely a standout. And the actress, Mariana Trevino, I believe is her name, she's not really been in much of anything from what we could tell. I think that she's got a career ahead of her because she was...
Change.
Huh?
That's going to change. She's going to be in more things for sure.
Yeah, because she was a standout. And, it's not like she's even that young or anything like that. She just kind of came out of nowhere in this middle part of her career.
And it also looks like it doesn't look like she's done a lot of things in the US, but more so is I guess well known. It says stage and screen actress in Mexico.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that definitely she'll be getting some more work here in American films as well after this one. She was a standout even in a movie with Tom Hanks, which is impressive. All right. Well, I don't really think we have too much else to say about this non-spoiler related. So, Patrick, why don't you give us kind of like your sum up final thoughts on what you think?
I think everyone here has missed the biggest actor in this film. It was the cat, which I don't think ever got named. The cat was the best. The comedic relief from the cat was much needed.
Yeah.
And, man, that cat just got me in the feels.
That's a good point. I don't know how we did forget to say anything about the cat, especially since there's one walking around us as we speak.
I know, I'm a little ashamed of myself.
You should be.
So, any other final thoughts?
I think the only thing that drags the movie down a little bit is there was too much boomer humor. There's a lot of kids these days jokes, which I think can be expected given the source material and it's
and the curmudgeon-y aspect of the character.
Yeah, but it was a little heavy-handed. Like without getting into spoilers just yet, there was a man who needed help. He had fallen down in an inconvenient location, and instead of people helping him get up and into safety, everyone just pulls out their phones. And I'm like, that would happen to a certain degree, but somebody would help. It wouldn't just be everyone like, oh, I'm on Twitter, or TikTok, or whatever.
Yeah, that part was irritating.
I thought that was a little heavy-handed, but that's just being nitpicky.
Right. So what would you give this score-wise?
I would give this 4 boomers out of 5.
4 boomers out of 5. All right, sounds good. Taylor, your thoughts?
Does this need to be out of 5 or out of 10?
Whatever
It
you
can
want.
be whatever you want it to be.
Ooh, that's dangerous. I give it 9 out of 10 cats.
Oh, 9 out of 10 cats. Wow, that's a very high score, Taylor. I wasn't expecting that.
That is an A-.
Yeah, that's really good.
Oh yeah, I would totally give it an A-. I love this movie. It was funny. It was heartfelt. I think that I would watch this like if I was having a bad day or something.
You just needed a good cry.
Gosh, yes.
Yeah, overall, I did enjoy the film. I thought it was very well done, a very faithful adaptation as far as book to movie adaptations are concerned. It does help that I read the book very recently and was able to, see just how faithful it is, going, even back and forth in time with the flashback segments of the film, which is how the book is written. It kind of, one chapter's present, one chapter's past, back and forth, back and forth. I thought that the movie handled that narrative style very, very well. So the movie also made me a little afraid of getting old and the things that come along with
It is going to suck.
getting old. What'd you say?
It's going to suck.
Yeah, it seems like it's just awful. But I think that was kind of maybe not the goal of the movie, but it was certainly, something that showed that, everyone deals with things differently and everyone has different struggles they're going through. It doesn't really matter your age. Everyone's got a problem throughout the movie. But I don't know, something about it just made me realize that, I should really enjoy my youth while I have it. But anyway, overall, really great movie. Enjoyed it. I'd give it a solid, I think I'm going to go 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. What's that face for?
Oh, that feels so low.
Well, I'm sorry. A part of this is that it's the second movie of the year, and chances are things will come around or come along later that are better, and I don't want to just rate something so high and then have people come back and say, well, wait a minute, you gave Otto a higher score than this. What's wrong with you, man? So it's just part of it's being overly cautious this early into the year.
Well, then
So you're
that's
being
no
like-
reason.
Being like
to-
IGN or GameSpot, you got to do the safe ratings. Give it an 8 out of 10. Call of Duty 8 out of 10 every year.
I gave it a 7, thank you very
It's
much.
true. I guess I did give it an 8 out of 10, so I guess I'm being IGN.
Exactly. How dare you?
Ugh.
Yeah, and I guess I'll give it 8 or 7 out of 10. I don't know, what's something else in this movie that I could use
7
as-
out of 10 hypothermic cats.
Yeah, 7 out of 10 radiators.
There you go.
There you go. They mentioned bleeding radiators a lot. As a 29-year-old person, I can safely say I didn't really know what that meant in both the
Yeah, me
book
neither.
or the movie still.
Red radiator.
He did something where he turned something on it and it started leaking little drops of water. That's all I know.
Same.
All right. I think that's going to do it for the non-spoiler section. We're going to have a quick discussion, spoiler-related. Not too long. There's not really too much to talk about spoiler-wise, but we'll have that right after the break. See you in a minute. All right, welcome back into the quick spoiler section on A Man Called Otto. So this is where we talk about some things maybe we couldn't say in the non-spoiler section. We can get a little bit more in detail about the things we liked, maybe things we didn't like so much. So I know, Taylor, you have something to say spoiler-related, I believe. Is that correct?
I mean, I'm sure that I do. I would say that one of the things that I thought was just funny was that after Otto reveals that he's been trying to kill himself because he's been unhappy, saying all of this to Marisol, he ends up having like a heart issue that sends him to the hospital, and Marisol or the doctor or somebody remarks that Otto is bad at dying, and I just thought that that was funny.
He was pretty terrible at dying. Like, he had a really hard time.
Yeah, there's like 4 instances where it doesn't go right, and every single time it's pretty comedic and tonally, like, it works, which is really impressive. The first instance, he tries to hang himself, and then he doesn't have a strong enough bolt or whatever. He comments you can't
Yeah,
even buy good enough bolts these days.
The bolt just falls out of the ceiling. I thought it was really clever how, as a character, when he was trying to kill himself, he was like, oh, I need to wear the perfect shirt to look good, and he like really took care of his house, so he wanted to make sure that everything was covered in plastic and stuff. And in the very beginning of the movie, he goes to a hardware store, and he buys 5 feet of rope, and the rope is priced per yard. And when he goes to check out, the cashier says, oh, that'll be like $2 or whatever for 6 feet of rope. He says, I have 5 feet. It should be like $1.78 or whatever it was. And he haggles with the cashier, and they go back and forth. And then it cuts to his house where he sets up the noose. And you're like, this bro just haggled over 30 cents when he's about to kill himself. What the hell?
Right, and then he also calls the power company to shut off his power, but he's upset that there are certain, like...
Hey, bro, you're going to die.
Yeah,
you're not taking that 32 cents with you. What are you doing, dude?
And then the power company said that, like, they can't give him, like, the money back for the 6 days that, like, are before his bill or whatever, like, so he can't get the 6 days back.
What are you doing?
And so he's like, I don't want to pay for power that I don't have, even though he's shutting the power off so that after he's dead,
bro, you dead.
The power is not on and his money posthumously is being taken.
I just think it's funny because that's me. I just kept hearing him say, like, it's just like the principle of the matter, and that's totally me. That was me whenever I was trying to switch over our internet, and they told me that I couldn't have it prorated because it was for the whole month, and it just pissed me off. But I would say, like, this reminded me a lot of myself because I love me some rules. Rules
Same. Provide
structure.
Yep.
And my coworkers make fun of me all the time for this. But I think that it says so much about Otto's personality, especially when he's talking with his wife, Sonia, over dinner, and she's trying to get to know him and asks, what are you passionate about? And he kind of struggles for a little while to think of something and ultimately comes up with machinery. And I thought that was just so interesting because at a surface level, machinery sounds super boring. But I think what he loves about machines is that all the pieces perform a specific function and they all work together to accomplish a task. And that's how he sees the world. And his thought is that if everybody could just pull their weight, things would operate like they're supposed to, which I think is why he gets so upset with people and calls everyone idiots, which is also kind of my inner monologue.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah. I think that, that's what is special about the character in the movies because, yeah, he's kind of an asshole at times, but, like, he's easy to understand and root for because he has so many, like, character traits that are presented in 1 2-hour movie, and it's like everyone can see something in themselves that relates back to this one person. Like for Taylor, you just said it's the rules and the having structure and things like that. For me, it was just his inability to effectively relate to children and talk to children. Like, he struggles with it and doesn't know exactly how to do it. He tries to read him a story and he messes up and doesn't speak, like, in the voices. And I've read to children and I've struggled to do that too. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I think that the character was meant to have autism spectrum disorder. I'm like 100% sure that's the case. I think that touches on like the rules and the rigidity and the straightforward way of talking that people perceive as being rude. So I don't think he, as a character, knew that he was being rude. I think he was just being straightforward. I thought that was interesting as well. But I tried doing some Googling about it to see if that was like intentional, and I didn't find anything. But I'm like 100% sure that he was portrayed that way.
It's interesting because I thought he was aware that he was being a jackass at times.
When he gets angry, I could see that. But I think like when he was checking out the cashier, he says like, I have 5 feet of rope. Like, these are numbers. This is math. That's how it works. Like, what
Right.
don't you understand about this?
Right.
I think that's where, I don't know. I thought the character was interesting in that way.
Gotcha. Yeah. So as far too as spoilers are concerned, you might notice we're not talking a ton about conflict and there being, well, other than he's mean, but there's not a lot of conflict as far as like different types that keep the plot moving forward and stuff like that and things like that. Really, the only conflict throughout the story is that Otto versus these like. They're like
real estate investors.
Yeah, like real estate moguls or the people who kind of like are trying to own the condo company and stuff like that, and they're trying to take people out of their homes and stuff like that, and they're really the only unlikable characters throughout the whole movie. But even the movie, realizes like, hey, everyone's going to want to see these people go down, and the movie gives that to you. So it really is, even though it has some heartbreaking moments, it's still a very like crowd pleasing movie. Like nothing happens where you're like, oh darn, I wish that was different. Like, no, everyone gets their comeuppance that needs it, and everyone gets the praise for characters you like.
I think ever since the 2008 financial crisis, like that introduced like the concept of like either Wall Street investors or real estate investors as being potential villains, because prior to that, no one ever like considered those like as villainous characters for the most part. So I think everyone like has in the back of their head, they remember like 2008, and they're like, oh, those bastards. So it was clever to have a movie with a real estate investor be the villain, and it wasn't like the primary villain, because the primary villain of the movie was really like Otto's inner turmoil. He's like trying to get over it. So like there was like a secondary antagonist, like this outside force coming in and potentially harming the neighborhood. I thought that was an interesting way to frame it.
Yeah, and it gave him it gave him a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the story as well. This is kind of what gets him out of his funk and makes him realize that like I need to keep going even though my wife is gone, which is what we've been waiting for him to figure out the whole time. And speaking of that, I did want to mention the flashbacks real quick. I'm pretty sure that the young Otto is Tom Hanks' son.
Because we saw Hanks in the opening credits. I was trying to figure out who it was.
Right. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's got to be his son. So,
wow,
Taylor's nodding
catch.
yes.
He didn't
Truman
look too much like him.
Hanks. No, it didn't look as much like. We all know Colin Hanks.
Who's Colin Hanks?
Well, that's his other son. That's an actor.
I didn't know he had another son that was an actor.
Yeah, he's in. He's at the end of the first Jumanji, not the one with Robin Williams, the new one. Like
with The Rock.
Yeah, he's the one. He's got a Metallica shirt on at the end. He's Nick Jonas.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yep, that's Tom Hanks' son. Yeah, so Truman Hanks is the name of the young Otto, and so yeah, oftentimes like in the scenes where he's about to kill himself, you get like flashback scenes of kind of what he's thinking about as maybe his life's about to end, and it's kind of the story of him meeting Sonia, his wife, and all the stuff that they went through, which is a lot and very tragic and sad at times and things like that. But the movie also takes time to let you know just how like great of a person she was and how she affected so many different people and things like that. And I thought the flashbacks were handled extremely well, especially their placement. They didn't feel like there were too many, and it felt like they were put at the perfect times. Like it made sense to have it kind of be while he's thinking about his suicide, because it's kind of like literally his life flashing before his eyes.
I thought clever too.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good way of doing the flashbacks, because flashbacks are they can be handled poorly in movies. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but where it's just like this doesn't feel narratively like where it's supposed to be. But the ones that they had, even like they sometimes do just like little flashes of flashbacks. And there was one specific one that used young Truman Hanks, and then in the reflections of the thing, like he's going down, I think like a terminal, or not a terminal. What's the thing that like you go into a plane? What the thing you walk down?
The aisle.
No, the thing like from the airport that you walk down.
The tubey thingy.
The jetway thing. Yeah, whatever that thing's called. Tom Hanks's reflection is in.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's like Tom Hanks's reflection on the walls with Truman Hanks in the center. So it did a really cool job of being like, here's a flashback. This is the same guy. I mean, obviously it is, but that was still really cool and creative. I noticed that. It's like, oh, I'll have to mention that. So I'm glad I just now remembered that.
Good job.
Thank you. All right, Taylor, what else you got?
I guess just in talking about like the resolution of the conflict between Otto and his, I guess, grief. It seemed like what really helped for him to have it all kind of click together and snap him kind of out of his grief was Marisol saying that we're not meant to live life alone. And, you know, we're meant to live in community. And I feel like I could relate to that as well because, I don't know, for some reason I have a desire to be self-sufficient and independent and not feel like a burden to other people. Like if someone were to help me, then I feel very, very obligated, you know, that I owe them instead of just seeing life as a community type thing where it's a give and take, and it's like Marisol said, not meant to be lived alone. And so I liked that, I don't know, she was kind of like a daughter figure to him, like the daughter that he never had or the child that he never got to have. Because that was taken away from him, which we saw in one of the flashbacks. And so I just thought that that was a really poignant moment.
Indeed. Yeah, that was good. I mean, yeah, I like I said, I think it handles like his revelation of I need to keep going really well. And that's what makes the ending both heartwarming and heartbreaking, because I guess we haven't really mentioned he dies.
Of natural causes, though.
Yes, of natural causes. So yeah, throughout the whole movie, you get keep getting told that like he has a heart condition where his heart is too big, which is ironic. But yeah, so I mean, by the end of the movie, you doesn't tell you exactly how long he's around after realizing this, but it's at least I would say what, like 3-4 years. That kid seems like he's.
It was 4 years, or it was about 3 years because his wife died in 2018. He said that she died 6 months ago, and his tombstone said 2022.
Good catch.
Yep.
Very good catch.
Good maths.
Thanks.
Yes. Nice job. So yeah, I mean, it's heartwarming to see that he understood, you know, like I have a purpose beyond my wife's death, you know, like I still have things to do here. But then it's also, of course, sad when he eventually succumbs to his condition because he's, you know, such a lovely fella
And the cat
by
was
the end
just
of the story.
laying next to his body, just chill
with the
I was
cat.
like, "Oh, poor cat."
Yes, the cat I'm sure was well taken care of by the end.
Yeah, he wasn't
you
eating him,
you
so
had
that's
something
good.
about the cat that annoyed you.
Yeah, the cat was like super CG'd in some shots. I was like, "What are you doing? Did Marvel do this?" It looked pretty bad.
Well, the Marvel cats actually look pretty good though.
Oh well, they're notorious for underpaying their visual effects artists. So
They are?
oh yeah,
Marvel?
yeah, they work them like slaves.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, fun fact.
Well, what the heck, Marvel? We'll have to.
That's why the recent movies have looked so awful.
Yeah, some have looked really bad.
They've looked awful because they worked their visual effects
Yeah.
artists so hard.
That third eye in Doctor Strange, woof.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. Taylor, got one more thing?
Can we just talk for a quick second about how you, Tyler, didn't cry at the end? And I'm personally very offended by that.
Yeah, I cried.
Why?
Because it was just so sad and touching and just sweet. And I just didn't want him to go. But apparently that didn't hit you in the feels.
I mean, I knew what was going to happen. So, I don't know. It just didn't.
Oh, it got me good.
I mean, I understand. I was well handled and well done, and it was emotional. I don't know. I can count on one hand the number of movies I've cried in. Like I said yesterday, I was struggling to even think of one.
I did realize which one made you cry. I think Coco.
Yes, Coco
Why
did make me
Coco?
cry. Yeah,
That was like a super happy ending.
that's why it made me cry.
Oh, okay.
Yep, Coco did. All right, there we go. I guess it's animation. Gets me. Oh, and Up. The first 10 minutes of Up.
Oh, yeah, that didn't get me either.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. It's so sad. All right. We good? Anything else?
I think we're good.
All
I think we're ready
right.
for the next section.
All right. Here comes our final segment after the break, our top 5 Tom Hanks movies, and we'll be back in a minute. All right. We're back with part 3, the final part of this week's podcast, our top 5 Tom Hanks movies. Of course, we're dealing with that this week. I mean, what else would we do? Top 5 grumpy old man movies. I don't know more than this in Gran Torino.
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, just the works of Clint Eastwood.
Wait. We're doing top 5 grumpy old man movies?
Yeah.
No, I said, what else would we do?
Oh, I was like, oh my God, I'm so screwed.
No, you're good.
My list is not that at all.
No. I was just saying I wouldn't be able to list more than Gran Torino and this. All right, so I pointed out to Taylor, I don't know if you noticed this, Patrick, but I pointed out to Taylor when I was looking over his filmography last night that, of course, I mean, it's Tom Hanks. Everyone knows who he is, and he's always great in the movies he's in, except for Elvis. Asterisk there. But, like, the movies that he's in, I don't feel like are some of the all-time greats. Like, he is one of the all-time great actors.
I mean, he's no Daniel Day-Lewis, but yeah, I hear you.
Well, yeah, like the amount of respect he gets as an actor, and like I'm sure that when people say who's the best actor, Tom Hanks would get a lot of votes. Like, the movies aren't up to that high of a like respect level.
Like the movies, yeah, the movies themselves. I guess I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I kind of had a hard time coming up with the list because I was like, well, you know, I had a clear number 1, but then everything else is just kind of like equally good. Like, there's not much other than my number 1 and 2 that I absolutely adore unconditionally and love. So
I have a funny feeling we're going to have the same list.
we'll see. All right, Patrick, would you like to take it away as you did last time?
I would like to take it away.
Go for it.
My number 5 is Castaway with Tom Hanks. I saw it, I think it was last year. It was, if you don't know, it's a movie about Tom Hanks getting in an airplane wreck, and he gets cast away on an island all by himself and with a volleyball, whom he later names Wilson. And Wilson is the best part of the movie. You get
The inanimate volleyball is the best part of the movie.
inanimate volleyball is the best part of the movie because he like draws a face on him with his hand blood, and he has a little smiley face, and he becomes a secondary character in this movie with Tom Hanks. Out of his like delusions, he needs a friend on the island, so that's his friend. He also sucks at killing himself in that movie. He tries to kill himself in Castaway, and it don't work. The tree branch breaks, so.
I just remember the part with the ice skate where he knocks his tooth out.
Yeah. He gets like an infected tooth, and he has to put an ice skate in his mouth and like bash it with like a rock or something to like knock out the tooth. And I'm like, bro, if you missed and got the wrong tooth, you're gonna be real sad. You're gonna be down 2 teeth, and you're gonna be a sad castaway. Well, sadder castaway.
And that's the very same ice skate that I'm pretty sure he cut his hand on, which led to...
Was it?
Well, because doesn't he cut his hand trying to do like the...
I don't remember.
Open the coconut?
It's been like a year. Yeah, he had a hard time with the coconut. He was bashing against a rock like a dumbass. I'm like, bro, it's not the right way to open up a coconut. You gotta use something sharp.
Right.
He used a rock, like a broken piece of slate or something to like cut open.
Yeah, because
the
isn't
outer
part of the
shell.
plot that like he keeps like things keep washing up on shore because
like
it was a
packages.
FedEx plane that crashed.
The whole time I watched it, I was like, man, I'd be so fucking pissed if my package got lost in the ocean. It was on some airplane and
Along
it
with
crashed.
this man.
I'd be like, where the hell's my damn package?
Yeah, that is true. That has happened to you a few times though, where your package just never arrives.
And I'm like, my damn package got lost.
Like Cubivore.
Some castaway. Yeah. Oh my god. Y'all, I got this GameCube game called Cubivore years ago. It was like $80 at the time, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have this game. I've always wanted it, and it never showed up. I got my money back, but now it's worth like $500. So pretty bummed out about that.
Indeed. Castaway's not on my list. Taylor, is it on yours?
No way.
It's actually not on my list either, Patrick.
I'm impressed.
I'm not a big fan of Castaway.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think that it's fine. I think that the island stuff where it's just Tom Hanks is really good, but it's the 40 minutes after he gets off the island, spoiler alert, that is just, it's like there is no reason that this movie should be going on this long after. It's like it's like Return of the King, where it's just like the ring is destroyed, yet there's an hour left. It's unnecessary, and I really don't even consider it a spoiler to say that he gets off the island, because the trailer for the movie shows that he gets off the island.
No way, does it really?
Yes, it's notoriously like one of the most hated trailers because it spoils the whole movie.
Wow, I never knew that. That's
Taylor,
crazy.
why is it not on your list?
I don't know. I mean, number one, I don't think that I've ever seen it all the way through start to finish. I've only seen it in little like snippets on TV, but it just never really struck my interest. It just seems like he's on the island, and that seems boring.
I mean, he's great in the movie, I will say that, and I'm pretty sure that's kind of one of his biggest like body altering
he
performances.
Got really skinny. He lost a lot of weight.
And he's clearly like chubby, in the scenes before, and he loses a ton of weight, and I think his hair is real, when it gets longer.
It's really long like that. I didn't know that.
I think it's real, but I could be wrong. I know for sure, obviously, he lost all the weight and stuff like that, and that's kind of one of the few times he's done that. So, all right, Castaway, number 5 for Patrick. Taylor, take it away.
I really didn't put mine in order, but I guess if I had to choose, I am going to pick You've Got Mail. I think that... Oh, have you not seen that?
I've never heard of it.
It's one of his where he, co-stars along with Meg Ryan. It's a really sweet little rom-com.
Sleepless in Seattle?
No,
The other one.
There's multiple Tom Hanks rom-coms?
With Meg Ryan, and then I believe they're together in Joe versus the Volcano as well. So,
Never heard of that.
I mean, they're just a dynamic duo, Tom and Meg. But in You've Got Mail, they're kind of like anonymous pen pals with each other over email, and they don't realize who they're talking to.
Does it do the You've Got Mail?
It does do You've Got Mail, which is why it's called You've Got Mail.
Makes sense, I guess.
But it's cute. It's just a nice little feel-good, just rom-com. I enjoy it, and that's why it's on my list, is that it's just entertaining.
I'll check it out.
I've not seen it, so I have nothing to say.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
Well, I've heard of it, yeah.
What in the world?
Isn't it, I think Carrie Fisher's... No, I'm thinking of When Harry Met Sally. Never mind. But Meg Ryan's in that. Okay. My number 5 is Big.
Never seen it.
I kind of forgot about that.
What?
Is that the one where he grows up?
That's one where he becomes big. Yes.
I guess that makes sense.
He is a young Josh Baskin is his name. He goes to Zoltar at the carnival one day and wishes that he were big, and he wakes up the next day as a young Tom Hanks. And the entire movie is basically Tom Hanks acting like a child and enjoying the things you can do as an adult.
Like pay taxes.
Yeah, but with the mind of a child. So, he's
paying taxes is real fun.
Yeah, it is. That's true. That's coming up too. I can't wait. But it's so. I mean, it was one of his first big film roles. So it's nice to see him kind of his breakout movie. Obviously, he was in Bosom Buddies. That was kind of his big TV series when he was a young fella. It's not really like a big show, but anyway, it was where he got his start. So Big was kind of like his breakout role into Hollywood movies and things like that. And I think it shows his comedic chops better than most movies. He's a really funny actor. He just doesn't get a chance anymore to really show his comedic chops, and he does a really good job in Big, basically just acting like a man-child the whole movie. There are some problematic portions now when you think about it in hindsight, which is why isn't it as high. Well, he has sex with a woman at the end.
Nice.
But it's...
But he has the
he's
mind of like a
technically
12-year-old?
13-year-old kid. And
oh, dear.
she has sex with him, and then in the end of the movie, she says goodbye to him, and as he walks away, he turns back into little Josh. So she sees the kid that she slept with the night before. So it's stuff like that where it's like...
Does she freak out? Like, oh my God.
No, it's treated as sweet.
Oh, that did not age well.
Yeah, so certain things like that.
Change the sexes
But then-
there, and things are a little different.
Yeah, but then there's other things that are just sweet and fun and hilarious, and then like all-time iconic scenes like the Robert Loggia piano scene where they're standing on the big piano and playing that at the toy store and stuff like that. But it's a really fun movie. I recommend it, especially if you want to see funny Tom Hanks. All right, Patrick.
I think my number 4 will have to be Captain Phillips.
Okay.
It's been actually like 6 years since I've seen that movie, but I remember it being solid. Of course, it came up with the meme, "I am the captain."
That's correct.
So for that reason alone, I think it deserves the number 4 slot.
That reason alone.
That's all it takes for me. My standards are pretty low, but I thought it was pretty harrowing. If you're not aware, it's about Somali pirates that take over a merchant ship, and they take the crew hostage, and I think the SEALs come in. They have to kill the pirates and stuff. It's a whole big thing, but it's one of those movies that I feel like it's like good, but it's not like an all-time great. Like Tom Hanks does a good job,
Right.
but you wouldn't say the movie is like, oh, it's a 10 out of 10. You'd be like, it's a B, like it's a C movie. It's okay. It's good. But I think it deserves a spot on the list.
Okay.
Because I haven't seen a whole lot of Tom Hanks movies, so my list is a little short. But there you go.
Well, I mean, it's 5 movies.
Well, the list of movies to pick from.
Oh,
is
okay.
short.
I see. I have nothing else to add at the moment. Taylor?
Oh, I thought that was a really good movie. I appreciate that that's a spot on your list. That movie is super stressful, and it's not one that I would
anxiety.
watch. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't watch it often, but he's very good in it. So I appreciate that it's in your top 5. It was not in my top 5.
Well, what is Taylor?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. I'm going to say probably my number 4 is Angels and Demons. And I recognize also that this is not, like a great movie, like objectively, but I don't care because I still enjoy watching it. I like the idea of it. I enjoyed reading the book. I just like the idea of, religion and science going hand in hand in these, seemingly separate ideals or conflicting ideals. They can go hand in hand. But I enjoy that movie. I also enjoy Italy and just that culture. So, I don't know. That's why I have it in my top 5.
Yeah, I don't have either of those, and well, I guess there's 3 of them. I don't have those in my top 5, but I do
3.
enjoy them.
I didn't know there's a third.
Yeah, Inferno.
Huh.
Yeah, the Ron Howard, Robert Langdon trilogy. Personally, I am a Da Vinci Code guy.
Yep.
But Angels and Demons is also very good. You got a good Ewan McGregor performance in there as the what is he? I know he's like a priest. But what's the title of him?
Oh, I don't exactly remember what he was.
We're not Catholic, so
What kind of priest is? I haven't seen the movie, but like, what does he do? Like an archbishop
he's just like
or something?
he's just like a pretty high up person in the Vatican.
Might be a bishop.
No, it begins.
Is he
I
wearing
can't
red?
remember. It's like it begins with a C or something. I don't remember. But anyway, I just remember Ewan McGregor was good in it. And yeah, those are fun movies. Not great by any means, but serviceable adaptations. And Tom Hanks is just a weird casting choice for that character. If you read the books, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think that's a kind of valid point, but I don't know. I feel like the character is, just like a Harvard professor, like a little generic. I feel like Tom Hanks can play very generic, just like a normal run-of-the-mill kind of dude.
Yeah, fair enough. I still haven't seen Inferno. I remember you saying it was atrocious, so I never saw it. No. Patrick, you haven't seen any of these?
That's actually my next one on the list.
Oh,
Aha.
okay, never mind. All right, my number 4 is Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, that's a good one.
Is it on your list?
No.
Oh,
I forgot about it.
Taylor?
No, it's not on my list either.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just me. I'll take it away then. It's one of Hanks's collaborations with Steven Spielberg. It's also, I believe, his only collaboration with Leonardo DiCaprio, one of my favorite actors.
They're a good pair.
Yeah. Used to say my favorite actor, but I think he might be. I realize he's a weird dude, but I feel like Tom Cruise might be my favorite actor.
I mean, Leo is a weird dude too.
Well, yeah, but Tom
he
is
has like a dating age cutoff of like 25 or something.
Yes, he does, but Tom is a little weirder. But anyway, so yeah, it stars those two. DiCaprio is Frank Abagnale Jr., a real life criminal who basically committed various acts of fraud throughout his life, where he impersonates different people in different careers and things like that in order to make money and steal money. And the whole time, Carl Hanratty is Tom Hanks's character. He's a member of the FBI who is chasing DiCaprio because he knows what he's doing is illegal. He just needs to catch him in the act, basically, of doing something that he can say, have proof. And so it's a nice cat and mouse movie with two excellent actors, a really interesting real life story that is directed in a way that makes it, much more exciting than it could have been probably in someone else's hands. But Spielberg, as we all know, he's Spielberg, so he can pretty much do anything. All right, Patrick.
My next one is actually The Da Vinci Code.
All right.
I like that movie. I saw it when I was a little kid for the first time, and it blew my stupid little brain. There was a lot of stuff going on. I was like, what? This is crazy. How could, what? Oh my God, Jesus had a kid. What? It was mind boggling to my dumb little 12-year-old brain, I think I was.
And it was also, I feel like when we were that age, because I remember this too, it was like so edgy.
Yeah, it was very edgy. Like it was going after like fundamental beliefs of the Catholic Church and Christianity as a whole. Like, Jesus had sex? What? And no one had really like questioned that stuff before, so it was like super crazy. And it had like puzzles and stuff. It had a really pale guy who self-flagellated all the time. It's wild.
Silas the albino.
It's nuts. I don't know why he's albino. He just is. He doesn't need to be, but he is.
That was
great.
Paul Bettany, young Paul Bettany.
Yeah, there you go. It was
Vision
excellent.
himself.
Yeah, that was Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He has a rough go at it. Oof.
Yeah, that's my pick for the best of that trilogy.
It's the only one I've seen.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I was a kid, my parents got so triggered by this.
How dare
this
you?
idea of this book and this movie. They were like, you absolutely cannot see it. And of course I did anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting ideas that are brought up about like this royal bloodline of Jesus and things like that. And
it's crazy stuff.
And how there's like things in the Bible and things in Da Vinci's like works of the Last Supper and things like that help prove that like, oh, this is things that could actually be happening. And even if you're not on board with all that, it's still a pretty unique murder mystery and things like that in general, puzzle solving film with this really cool device that they need to figure out the code to open so that the message doesn't get destroyed, which is basically, I believe,
what was the chemical? It was a vinegar or
yeah, it was just vinegar. I think it's like it's a map to the burial site of Mary Magdalene.
Yep, it was.
Yeah. So really interesting stuff.
The Catholic Church is trying to cover it up because if proof gets out there that Jesus had a kid, then that destroys the whole mythos around him, and the whole church will fall, and it's a whole big thing. It's crazy. Right.
Yeah, so not traditional ones that you would probably see on, because I feel like people like to hate on these movies, but I mean, yeah, they're not great, but they are really enjoyable in my opinion. A lot of Ron Howard movies, for some reason, people are low on, and then there's other ones where they're really high on him. He seems to be a real hit or miss director when it comes to like critical consensus.
That's Bryce Dallas Howard's dad, right?
That is Opie from Andy Griffith's Show.
Oh.
So, all right, Taylor.
I'm going to say that my next one will be, let's do The Green Mile.
That's another good one that I didn't think about.
I think that this movie is just tragic. I mean, it's so good, but it's just so sad. But I think that Tom Hanks is really great in it, as a prison guard who is guarding an inmate on death row, and I guess like they're just trying to like prove his innocence, and he is innocent, but he still, spoiler alert, dies anyway. So sad, but it's such a good movie.
Based on a novel by my favorite author, Stephen King. Yeah, it is good. It's really long. It's over 3 hours. It doesn't particularly feel like it. It also, just like we were talking about with the last movie, has a lot of biblical elements to it, where this inmate is basically like a angel that has like otherworldly powers and things like that, and it's, you know, like society kind of like taking advantage of, or like, you know, the what's the word, like otherworldliness that, you know, like some people don't believe in it, things like that. It's hard to explain. I don't really remember too much about the movie, but I do remember liking it. That's really all I remember, though. And that Michael Clark Duncan was very heartbreaking and tragic and things like that. That's one that I feel like I got emotional in while we were on that topic of discussion, where he's, you know, he can't see in the dark, don't put the bag over my head, all that stuff. And then there's a really traumatic scene in there too with the electric chair, where a guy, like, it goes wrong. I remember this, where it goes wrong and he basically like burns to death.
Oh, did they not put a wet sponge on his head?
Yeah, there's like a dipshit guard who did it on purpose because he didn't like the guy, so he purposefully didn't wet the sponge.
Oh, that's messed up.
I remember that. Yeah, so it's a pretty heavy movie, and it's really long, but it is really well made. That's a Darabont movie. That's his other Stephen King adaptation, because he did Shawshank as well. So he's a Stephen King adaptation maestro, because then he did The Mist later on as well, which is also really good. All right. Anything to add on your film, Taylor? All right, my number 3, and I'll be quick, is Captain Phillips. So it's more at number 3, not like you were saying, Patrick, not because the movie's great, which, I mean, it's good. I show it in my film classes as an example of how not to direct a movie, honestly, because Paul Greengrass's style is not for me, with his quick cut editing and things like that, and his shaky cam, which he does in the Bourne movies as well as Captain Phillips. That's just his style, is to shake the camera and have his like cuts be like 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds it's got to cut to something else. But Tom Hanks is just so freaking good in the movie that the final scene, you know, where he is in shock, is some of the best acting I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, where they're treating him for like his injuries and things like that, and he's just shaking, and he doesn't know where the blood came from that was on his clothes, and he's like, this isn't my blood, is it? Stuff like that, and he's freaking out. Some of the best acting I've ever seen, and he was not nominated for an Oscar for that, which is tragic. But it's an all-time great performance. I think it's best performance. It's just not his best movie, if that makes sense. All right, number 2, Patrick.
I think my number 2 is gonna have to be Forrest Gump. Now I have a crazy story. I have a crazy story. I don't know how old I was, but I know that Pokemon Ruby was the newest Pokemon game, and my family went to New York City, and we were walking through Times Square, and we were like, oh, where do we want to eat? And there's this restaurant called Bubba Gump's, and I'd never heard of it before, and my parents somehow knew about it, and we walked in, and it was apparently opening day for Bubba Gump's in Times Square, just by total coincidence, and they had a Tom Hanks / Forrest Gump impersonator there, and he was playing as Forrest Gump, and I was like, why the hell is this weird guy talking to me like this? What is going on? And we ate at Bubba Gump's and got some shrimp, and we went to the gift shop and left with the VHS for Forrest Gump. So when we got home, we watched the VHS, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. It was a whole big thing. Blew my stupid little head away. It's crazy. But of course, it's a classic. Everyone loves Forrest Gump.
No, we don't.
It's a great movie. he's basically just blundering his way through life and in the best possible way. They did a lot of shots where they edit him into like real life footage of historically significant moments, and it's wild. It's just great. It's a feel good movie for the most part.
This is my least favorite movie ever made.
Why?
Have I not told you this before?
No, why?
Oh yeah, I fucking hate this movie.
What in the world? Everyone loves Forrest Gump.
We really don't.
That's all right, whatever. Everyone's allowed to be wrong.
Taylor.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do not hate this movie
All right, good.
quite as much as Tyler, but I won't speak for him. My qualm with it is Jenny. She's the worst.
Yeah, Jenny's kind of a bitch, I'm not going to lie.
She's awful. I mean, she really ruins a lot of it, and it feels like, kind of takes advantage of him and just uses him for her own selfish needs. And she just does not care about him until she's dying and is like, oh, yeah, by the way, here's our kid that you can,
By the
take
way,
care
I have
of.
AIDS. Here's a kid.
That too.
It's basically a hit.
Right, yeah, that's why I hate the movie, is that, I mean, it's basically a movie about taking advantage of a person with, like a disability. She shows up whenever it's convenient for her and she needs something, and then as soon as she's got what she needs,
Well, nobody likes Jenny.
even like, I'm just horny, so I want to sleep with Forrest. The next morning she leaves, and then it's not until she's dying, like Taylor said, that, hey, I need someone to watch my kid when I'm dead. Here you go. He's your kid anyway. That she comes back and decides to marry him to try and make it seem like she's not a shitty person.
Now that you're rich and famous,
Yeah.
I'm going to marry you.
No, I despise this movie. I think everything that people find charming about it is annoying. I think Tom Hanks' performance is annoying. It won Best Actor, and I don't know why.
Because he didn't go full blank word.
Well, yeah, you can't do that anymore with the Tropic Thunder, but I think that is the example Robert Downey Jr. uses in that. But anyway, like, it's just, yeah, I found it extremely overrated. I thought it was trying to be too cute and quirky for its own good, and I just hate it. And I think part of it is that it's so freaking beloved, and I just don't get it, that it makes my annoyance more. Like, it won Best Picture over Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption.
I didn't know that. That's pretty funny.
It makes
I would not
no
agree
sense.
with that, but
Yeah.
that's pretty funny.
So anyway, I'm glad you like it, though.
I'm sure you are.
I am. I mean, you
But are you?
yeah, that's how most people feel. You're certainly in the majority. I'm not. All right, my number 2, which, yeah, we're on number 2, right?
I don't know.
Oh, Taylor, you got to go. Sorry.
Trying to steal my spot. My number 2 is going to be A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Oh, with Mr. Rogers.
Yes. I just think that Tom Hanks is so charming as Mr. Rogers. It's just super sweet and a touching movie. I just love it.
Is that it?
I'm waiting for some dark shit to come out about Mr. Rogers at some point. Like, they're going to find some, like, manuscript with, like, 20 bodies under his house or some shit.
Oh my gosh, no. I don't
Just
think
waiting
that
for it.
I don't think that's him.
It's like all our heroes are just like, oh, by the way, they've killed 20 people.
No, this is like the one thing that I just feel like we as a people like
To rally around Mr. Rogers.
we have nothing else.
As a species, we have to band together to
What about
protect
Bob
Mr.
Ross?
Rogers.
Do you think Bob Ross has skeletons in the closet?
I don't know, maybe paintings of skeletons for all I know.
He's pure. He's
Happy
done no
Little
wrong.
Tree.
Yeah, that was a good movie. I enjoyed it. He like I said about Captain Phillips, I think he's better than the movie. But I mean that's perfect casting for Mr. Rogers. You can't really get much better than that, except for the documentary that has the real Mr. Rogers that we saw a year before. That was one of those where you had the same thing come out in the same year. One of those issues or scenarios.
Well, and I think that was also, not to be very political, but just in a climate where we really needed a Mr. Rogers. And so I think everyone capitalized on, who is Mr. Rogers? Why, do we love him so? how is he such a good guy? And I'm sure that's why it was probably like coming out during that time. We needed a Mr. Rogers.
Touche. That is a good point. The world is negative. I mean, it still is.
Yep.
The movie changed that, though, for like a day.
Exactly.
So.
I didn't even remember it.
Oh. No, we saw it in theaters. It was good. Yeah, Tom Hanks was great, though. All right. Number 2 for me, which I'm guessing is, I guess, not on your list, Patrick, since you only have one left. Saving Private Ryan.
That is on my list.
Oh, okay. Well, then a different one. All right, then. Yeah, Saving Private Ryan is my number 2, and his other Spielberg movie. One of the best movies ever made. One of the best war movies ever made. Might be my favorite war movie ever made. Tom Hanks plays like a general in the army in World War II. The first scene is 30 minutes long, and it's D-Day, and it's one of the most graphic and realistic war scenes you'll ever see in a movie, if not the most. And it gets kind of like known for that and nothing else. But the other 2 hours of the film are, in my opinion, just as good. I mean, it's a movie that is very much like, here's what the war was like, but it also finds the humanity in the characters. It's not just like, here are random people and they're all going to, fight in this war, and some might live, some might die, and things like that. Everyone's kind of fleshed out. You care about the characters, even the ones that suck. I'm talking to that one guy with the mustache or whatever, or the
Jewish guy.
Yeah, well, I don't remember his name. The scaredy cat.
Oh no, not the Jewish guy. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that guy who wimps out at every opportunity. But yeah, I mean, it's a very human story. It's like, we're all rooting for these guys, even though in war I feel like this would never happen. They're doing like a huge mission to try and save one person, which I feel like maybe wouldn't be the case. I'm not in the military, obviously, but the whole movie is based around, hey, this mother lost like 3 of her children and one is left, and he's in captivity, and you're going to go in there and save him. I don't know if that's how that would work, or if they might just be like, it is what it is, but it makes for a more human story, and one that we can get behind and root for, because we want to see that mother have her child back. And of course, the child's played by Matt Damon in one of his earlier roles as Private Ryan. But yeah, it's a great movie, very realistic. Apparently a good first date movie, because my parents went on their first date to see
Nice.
Saving Private Ryan, which is very odd. Maybe it was their second date. It was one or the other. And then the other movie they saw in the second/first, whichever order it was as good as it gets. But I know Private Ryan was in there somewhere. All right, Patrick, since it's your on your list, why don't you say something?
The unequivocally best Tom Hanks movie is Saving Private Ryan. Not necessarily for Tom Hanks's performance, but the movie as a whole is just insanely good. You mentioned the D-Day beach scene. The attention to detail in that scene is just unfathomable. There's a scene where I think it's a medic. He's like treating a guy, and he has a canteen on his hip, and he gets shot, and you see the canteen start leaking water, and you think, oh, the canteen just got a bullet through it, and he's still patching up the guy he's working on. And then you see the water start to turn pink and then red, and you realize that his blood is leaking into the canteen, which is then leaking out of the canteen. And it's just like the attention to detail for all these things going on at the same time is just insane. And they used real life amputees to be on the beach, so when you see a guy's like leg blown off, he has like a real stump. It's just wild. There's a scene towards the end where I forget his name, but he's the one Jewish character in like the squad or platoon or whatever it's called. And
You talking about the sniper?
no.
Oh, okay.
That was a Christian guy, because he's constantly like quoting the Bible.
Yeah.
But there's a Jewish character, and he gets killed by a Nazi, and you think, oh, this is a military movie about D-Day, like the Jewish guy's gonna get through, he's gonna kill the Nazi, and he's gonna win. But he gets stabbed through the fucking heart. And that's what war is like. You just get stabbed through the fucking heart.
Oh, I remember. That's at that, like, when it's like really slow.
Yeah,
He
like
gets stabbed
the Nazi
really
guy's
slowly.
standing over him, and he has the knife, and he's like pushing down on the Jewish guy, and you think, oh, the Jewish guy's going to turn it around, and he's going to get him, and he's going to get out. No, he just fucking dies.
Yeah, that movie pulls no punches.
It is one of the most brutal movies I've ever seen. You see Vin Diesel get shot by a sniper, and he's like, take this letter to my family. He's always talking about his family. And
Giovanni Ribisi, the medic.
Yeah, it's just wild. Like
asking for his mom while
the medic
out.
gets shot, and he's like crying for his mom. I'm like, oh my, it's so visceral.
It doesn't mess
so
around.
Brutal. It does such a good job of portraying war.
And this is why I haven't seen it. And I just don't know if I'm going to see it because everyone...
Alyssa won't watch it. She can't.
Yeah, everyone describes it just... I mean, it sounds awful. It sounds traumatizing to even watch, which I know is... I mean, obviously, the point of war. But I can't bring myself to even watch it, even though I know I should. And it's, heralded as this great movie. I can't.
I would recommend you see it since you've seen Hacksaw Ridge and thought it was good.
Yeah, Hacksaw Ridge is excellent.
And it was excellent, but it's one of those where it's like, okay, well, I never want to watch this ever again. So then I feel like watching Saving Private Ryan would be like watching Hacksaw Ridge, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, but you enjoyed it and you're glad you saw it. And I think that's what you'll feel when you see Private Ryan. I think everyone should. It's one that everyone should see. I mean, even just for the history.
I think it's a good movie to watch something with like levity after, like even if it's just like a silly TV show like Gilmore Girls or something. I don't know.
Hey, Gilmore Girls is not silly.
Something to make you feel better after the sadness that you just went through. But it's so the word I think I could summarize it with is just poignant, because it's so important. It's so resolute in the message it's giving you. It's so good.
That makes sense. I just can't fathom being in a mood to watch it.
Sometimes I'm in the mood just to watch the D-Day scene on YouTube, just because it's excellent. So insane.
It's really impressive. I think that's Spielberg, one of his best movies. I mean, if not his best. I'm always going to have a soft spot for E.T., but that was my childhood. And then I still can't believe that lost Best Picture either. Or that was another one of the big upsets. They even brought Harrison Ford out to ideally read Saving Private Ryan as Best Picture because he's so close with Spielberg. And then it did not win. And you could hear the disappointment in his voice when he announced the winner.
Oof.
It was Shakespeare in Love. That's what won. It was like the winner, the Oscar goes to Shakespeare in Love. That's how he said it. He was not happy.
That's great.
Yeah. All right, Taylor, what's your number one?
Well, I have a feeling that your number one and my number one are going to be the same. And Patrick, how dare this not even be on your list, by the way?
I'm sure I just completely forgot about whatever it is.
Do we say it on 3?
Yeah, sure.
1, 2, 3. Toy Story.
I didn't really count voice acting.
How dare you?
Why not?
Fun fact about Toy Story, though. The Toy Story 3 video game, the actor who plays Woody is Tom Hanks' brother.
Fascinating.
It's on my notes, just in case it came up. So I'm kind of glad it did.
So you knew about it and voluntarily didn't put it on the list.
I mentally segregate voice acting from full on-screen acting. I don't know why. I just do.
Huh. Well, fair enough, but I feel like, honestly, even though it's just his voice, that's the character that he's most synonymous with, oddly enough. Either him or Woody or Forrest Gump. It's one or the other, but I choose to think it's Woody because I actually like Toy Story. But yeah, that's my favorite animated movie of all time. It's not just my favorite Tom Hanks movie. It's my favorite favorite movie that is animated ever. The first one.
Did Disney own Pixar when it first came out? At that point,
I think so. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's to me the perfect movie as far as animation is concerned. Great characters, great voice acting. Tim Allen as well, who was sorely missed in Lightyear. That movie was not very good, and part of it is because Tim Allen is so synonymous with that character at this point. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about it. It's my favorite animated movie. I don't really know how much else I can say about it other than that, and I think the sequels are all excellent as well, except for 4. I don't think 4 was necessary.
No, I think 4 lost out a little bit on just the nostalgia of everybody has this, favorite toy that they had growing up, or a select few toys that were just
Is that the one with the spork?
Yeah, that's the one. But yeah, I think just Toy Story, the first one, is so classic and just full of nostalgia. I think parents could love it with, like some of the older toys like a Mr. Potato Head and Etch-a-Sketch and stuff like that, where it's just like everybody sees that kind of stuff and then thinks back to their own childhood. But I think, kind of like regardless of how you grew up, whether you were super wealthy and well off or, kind of, your parents might have been down on their luck, I feel like everybody still had like a toy that they were just inseparable from.
Yeah, it captures that pretty well with Andy and stuff like that. And his, and it captures the feeling too of like being replaced as well pretty well. Like Woody's kind of an asshole throughout that first movie.
Yeah, he's used to being like top dog.
Right. But it's like the movie's actually pretty good at making you understand where he's coming from. Like he's just struggling with like the fact that, there's a new kid in town, which I think might even be like a good lesson for kids who are watching it as well. Like especially kids with siblings, that it's not like a contest. Like there's a way for all of you to be happy and be appreciated and things like that. It's not a contest. So anyway, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful movie, and it started Pixar. We wouldn't have all of this without Toy Story.
I really think they need to remake it, honestly.
I disagree.
It does not hold up. Like the visuals, oh my god, they're rough.
I think it looks fine.
They're so rough. Back in the day, it looked amazing because it was amazing. But these days, I'm like, oh god.
I think it looks fine, especially when you consider it's the first time that technology was used.
Oh yeah, in the context of the time, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the first computer animated movie. Yeah.
Well, it was the first, at least by
3D
Pixar and fully like theater movie. They had like tons of shorts for like years and years and years beforehand. But
right.
That was the first like
full length. Like Snow White was the first full length of its kind too. Yeah. All right. Well, that's our lists, folks. So if you haven't seen some of those, go check them out. I mean, who hasn't seen Toy Story? Let's be real. Or who hasn't seen Saving Private Ryan, other than Taylor
and my wife,
and your wife? That is correct.
So a lot of people.
Yeah, that's like
a whopping 2.
2 out of 4. That's 50%. 50% of people haven't seen Saving Private Ryan.
Fair enough. All right, that's going to do it for this week. What do we got next week? Missing is coming up next week, I believe. So that's on the docket.
The first one.
I don't think it's really a sequel. I think it's just another of its type.
Oh,
so
I thought you said it was a sequel.
It's like a spiritual successor.
Oh, okay, different
to
director
Searching.
And all that.
No, it's new characters and things like
different verb.
Yeah,
or adjective or whatever.
Missing instead of searching. So that'll be next week, and we'll talk about I think our top 5 found footage movies, even though it's technically not a found footage movie. But found footage movie.
That's the closest we could come up with.
Exactly.
So we're sticking to it.
There's only so many screen-based movies that's not going to get us very far. So anyway, Patrick, where can they find you?
They can't find me anywhere. I'm off the internet. But we did create a subreddit. It's r/plotheads. Just all one word, plotheads.
Yes, go join that, please. That would help us out immensely.
We have one member. It's me. So
we're looking to change that.
Yeah, I'm a little lonely there.
All right, yeah, go join Patrick at the Plotheads subreddit, and who knows, Taylor and I think we might take it upon ourselves to do the Twitter since you did the Reddit.
We also need to make the YouTube, so we can give comments and stuff.
And the YouTube. All right, Taylor, where can they find you?
I'm going to take a page from Patrick's book and say you can find me nowhere.
Yeah, you're not on social media anymore either. I'm really not either. None of us are. So I'm going to stop doing this of the whole where can they find you thing because I'm realizing it's very redundant. So anyway, let's just say you can find us at the Plotheads Reddit and Twitter in the next few days when I make it. All right. Till next time, you all take care. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Theme song is Aerosol of My Love by Brian McLeod.